The single greatest thing in pro wrestling is a well-thought-out return. Edge, Daniel Bryan, The Undertaker, about 45,987 times Sting. It just gets you excited and within an instant reminds you why you love this craziness so much to begin with. Where else can you come back without a single person knowing beforehand it rocks? So to celebrate a brand new year and lean on the side of hope, this is 10 big WWE returns that could happen in 2021. Now hit that subscribe button for more content and let's go. Number 10, Kane. A return that wouldn't be a huge surprise but would fill you with glee. Glenn Jacobs has smashed it as Kane for over 20 years now after what was a horrendous start. He got lumbered being Isaac Yankem and the fake Kevin Nash before he stumbled across gold as The Undertaker's crazy younger brother, and today he really is one of the most iconic characters ever. Plus he had some damn good matches. Don't give me any of that other crap. Go and watch the Big Red Machine circa 2001. That is some good stuff. The key with a Kane comeback is that it hasn't been overly done when he started to wind it up, seemingly having his finger on the pulse of when to go away and stay away. Even when he did pop up, it was to put other guys over. We really don't give this man as much praise as he deserves. Recently, he has been more of a comedy segment and nostalgia pop guy. It's not like he'd be coming back to go after the WWE title or anything, but in a few more high-profile feuds as he continues to be a governor in his spare time, I don't see why not. If done well, it could be very useful indeed. Number 9, Edge. Again, without doubt one of the highlights of 2020, the rated R superstar returning at the Royal Rumble was flippin' amazing. He looked great, speared great, and it was like he'd never been away, even though he most definitely had. It all looked so promising at the time, and then life kicked all our asses, and plans had to change. After a decent program with Randy Orton, Edge got injured, meaning likely for the best given we had no fans in attendance. He had to go and sort that out. He's been absent for long enough now, though, that when he does re-emerge, it will feel awesome again, even more so if he can muster up another massive pop. Rumors also suggest that Edge could be facing Orton in one last match between them at WrestleMania, and if you want to build that right, the first ever Money in the Bank winner has to come in strong, feeling like a mad freight train. From there, we have so many dream matches that I cannot wait to see, the top one of course being Edge versus Jackson Riker. Makes me feel all tingly in my bones. Number 8, The Undertaker. A controversial pick, all things considered, and it really does depend on what the circumstances are. The dead man said goodbye at Survivor Series 2020, but come on now. A legend of the industry doesn't get seen for the last time after looking at some LED boards, so at some point he needs to return so he can say fare thee well properly, likely during a Hall of Fame induction. That's what would work best anyway, or at least I think. With that said, there's still this chatter that there's one last match in there, given that Drew McIntyre keeps mentioning it, and that AJ Styles in a recent interview said the same. They don't want him to go away. They want to give him that last epic encounter he's been looking for. Personally, I think he should do whatever the hell he wants, given he spent 30 years doing this thing, and it is wrestling. No one actually really retires. Just ask Terry Funk. Pretty sure he's up to number 54. And if it is done right, why not? It'll be judged by what happens in the ring, and that could go either way, but if we get from January to December without seeing him at all, then I will eat my Undertaker-style hat. That is a hell of a big hat too. I've seen it on his head. Number 7, Becky Lynch. It does not feel like it was April 2020 when Becky Lynch said goodbye on Raw and gave up her women's title, and yet somehow it is. She gave birth to her first child later in the year, leaving the question in the air about when, and maybe even if, she would ever come back. You just never know, and as ever, it's her choice for those out there who say weird things about this. If she is going to make a grand return, however, it would be in 2021, but who even knows what guise this would be in? The man could just come out, wave, and say that she's done. She could boot Charlotte Flair right in the head. She could start a tag team with Asuka called Asuka and Becky, because I couldn't come up with anything else. Who flippin' knows? Much like The Undertaker, I'd be amazed if we didn't see her at all, even if it was just a cameo appearance, and I have to say, it will be nice to have her back. Definitely a situation where absence makes the heart grow fonder, although saying that, she was on fire before she left anyway. Number 6, AJ Lee. That's a random one, right? Straight away you think of CM Punk and the ramifications of that and what it means and what life is all about. It opens a big box of questions that may never be answered. Do not forget though, not only was AJ Lee great in the ring, she was also a major figure in the women's revolution and had such a good character, she knew what she was doing. The twist comes in the fact she did continue on with the company long after Punk had left, and even after he was fired on their wedding day, AJ continued to wrestle. It was injuries that put a stop to that in 2014, and then in 2015 she decided she was done with grappling and moved on to other things. The sticking point is that said injuries were nothing light. right. Lee suffered damage to her cervical spine, which may very well mean this isn't a possibility, but wouldn't you just love a match between AJ Lee and Sasha Banks or Bayley? I know I would. And much like Edge, seeing her go through all of these in 2021 would not be the worst way to light a fire under the current product. Also, we've put it out into the universe now. That's how all these things start. Number 5, CM Punk. And we've said his name, so let's put CM Punk right here in the middle of the list too, just so we can spark that conversation and then move on. And I know, a return to wrestling article in CM Punk, but if we don't do it, we get just as many comments. May as well see what people are saying. It almost seems silly now, as the voice of the voiceless hasn't been in a ring since 2014, and yet here we are 7 years later, and we still believe. Children have turned into proper adults in that time, and let's just say that Punk was going to return. Would it really be to the WWE? I think at this stage, AEW makes much more sense for a host of reasons. Hell, knowing him, he could go to Ring of Honor, or maybe take a trip to New Japan. And let's not pretend it's not fun to speculate about this, because it is, and let's also not pretend his pseudo-return for WWE backstage has negated any of that. It has not. If anything, it just underlined that his stance to wrestling has softened a little bit, meaning he could be more tempted than he has been in the past. I have said it before, and I will say it again, I would be more surprised at this stage if he did walk back into this madness, but he would make quite the splash. His fans still love him. Punk left his mark. Number 4, Ronda Rousey. Another case of when, as opposed to if, you would assume. It feels like the only thing stopping this is that Ronda Rousey should really return when there are fans back in buildings. She's a ratings draw, so everything you can do to make it feel special is what you should do. It's how you do this that is up in the air. Do you talk about the slight mistake at WrestleMania where Ronda's shoulders weren't on the mat? And if so, do you do that with Becky Lynch? Is the man even going to be back by then? We have no idea. Business-wise though, it makes so much sense because there's a lot of money still on the table with Rousey. There's a ton more she can still do, and again, do not underestimate her mainstream reach. If she walks into a new environment, her fan base comes with her just to see what she's going to do and how she's going to do it. She was only wrestling for a year, so there's plenty left in the tank, and it all depends on what she wants to do. I certainly would like to see her return, and maybe she'll have her head smashed into a police window car again. That was nuts. Number 3, John Cena. Imagine a decade ago, somebody would have told you that come 2020, wrestling fans would miss John Cena. They'd have kicked you right in the face and called you a liar, and yet here we are. Admittedly, back then, Cena had been shoved down people's throats as he won every single match of the time, but things are different now, and John has that legendary stench all over him. The man is a star. His presence is certainly missing from WWE too, and that's now spread to the audience, who see him as a big deal. If you want to say he was the last proper superstar, you'd have a great point, because look at the ratings. Cena also improved in all aspects before he temporarily hung them up, and I know I'd like to see him in a few more matches soon. Knows how to whip you up into a frenzy. If you want stories too, we've got loads. John has never won the IC title if you want to keep him at that level, and of course you've got Ric Flair's 16-time World Heavyweight Championship record, which Cena is currently tied with. If you want to break it, you can, and also Randy Orton just won his 14th. Maybe there's something in that. None of this needs to happen, of course, and Cena has established himself as an all-timer, but if you want some big returns throughout the year, you surely have to be speaking to him at the very least. You figure out his acting schedule, and then you see what you could do. Number 2, Brock Lesnar. This comes down to cold, hard cash. If you pay Brock Lesnar what he deems he is worth, he will return. If you don't, he will stay on his farm and throw hay bales around, or whatever he does up there. I don't know. It's gonna have to be a huge sum too, given how much money Brock must have by now. But what did Ted DiBiase used to say? Everybody's got a price. For now, things are very quiet between the Beast and WWE, and maybe that's due to the pandemic, which stole away fans. Lesnar did his job in getting Drew McIntyre over at the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania before vanishing into dust, but it's within that as to why you can probably expect more. You think Lesnar's final wrestling goodbye is going to be in the Performance Center in front of no one? Absolutely not. A rematch with McIntyre and a longer, more hard-hitting bout with Rock, and if you want to then transition to Keith Lee and do the same, then hell yeah. Bobby Lashley could also get his match with Brock that he's wanted since he was 2 years old, and again, Brock will always do business as long as you flash the cash. Is that really not going to happen for another 12 months? I highly doubt it. Number 1, The Rock. Now, given the state of the world, I am putting this in 2022. The biggest actor in the world isn't coming back to perform in front of a grand total of 0 people, and at the moment, if The Rock does that at WrestleMania 37, well, it's probably going to be exactly that. The gears have started to turn, though, as Dwayne Johnson started name-dropping Roman Reigns and potential matches in 2020, and he doesn't do those things by accident. that is the only bout left for him too. Returning to the WWE to put a stop to the Tribal Chief's madness and remind him of the actual meaning of the word family. He should still lose naturally, and if I am right and there is another year standing in the way, the only question is, can you keep Roman on the same curve he's now on? Especially if this could potentially be months down the line. It is not easy. Before you lose your mind about this, do not forget either that The Rock has a crazy Hollywood schedule to keep, which will be even more nuts at the moment due to all the delays COVID brought about. Between this and insurance rates, WrestleMania may just be too big of a reach. It would be excellent, of course, and a true big-time main event, but if you want to start crossing your fingers, well, I would do it right now. Know of any other big WWE returns that could happen in 2021? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture, and I will talk to you again very soon.